Hi you guys, welcome back to another episode of Next Level with me, Dominique. We're going to go right ahead and jump into the quote for the week, and it reads as follows. The best thing in the world, and it reads as follows. The best thing in the whole world is watching things finally fall into place after watching them fall apart for so long. Whew. Okay, so I know I used to be like, oh, this hits home. Oh, this hits home. You guys, this quote right here is so near and dear to my heart. When I saw it, so many different emotions started running through me because, I mean, I literally feel like I watched my life fall apart before my eyes. And that process was not 2 months. It wasn't a 6-month time frame. It was a couple of years time frame, and so now at a point in my life where God is just blessing me abundantly, I just can't ever stop thanking him. Like, I've owned my home now at this point for probably a little over 3 years. It's been about almost 3.5 years, and there will be random moments that I will still walk through my house and be like, Lord, I don't even know how I have this, why you blessed me with it. I'm not worthy. I didn't have the credentials to have it when you gave it to me, and but you still gave it to me. You still trusted me with it. And so, like, literally, I still have days like that, and I'll just walk around in my house and be like, Lord, I thank you. Lord, I thank you. So when I think about where I come from, and I'll go ahead and be just slightly transparent. I know I did a video like this once before, and that was the one that so many people called me about, and they kept saying thank you for being transparent. And so when I moved to Houston, it was back in 2008 when I graduated college, yes, a while ago. And I just had this perception of what life was going to be like. And that's also one of my favorite quotes, the quote that says the thing that messes us up most in life is the picture of how we think things are supposed to be. And so I had this picture in my life that me and my son and his dad were gonna blissfully live this happily ever after life, and things didn't necessarily work out like that. I mean, I have my son. His dad is still a very big part of our life, but things didn't necessarily go how I thought they would go in my mind. And so moved here in 2008. He didn't necessarily move here with us, which was kind of the first thing that even, it was the first left where I thought I was going right. And so I moved into a house, which was the first house I had ever lived in, and it wasn't owned. We rented it. And so I lived there for about 2 years. And then my son's dad and I fell out. We had a huge argument and we broke up. And so that was at the end of 2009, I believe. So I had been living in the house about 1.5 years at that time. And so I really fell on hard times because I wasn't working at the time. And he still hadn't officially moved here. So, I wasn't working, and I'm here taking care of my son. And so for the next 6 months or so were really just a struggle because I couldn't necessarily pay for everything. And so before I knew it, I actually was evicted out of that house. And so that was in 2010, and I moved out of there and moved into an apartment. That was something that I could afford, and I started substitute teaching. So it's funny how everything operates, because teaching wasn't even something that that was not even my field. That wasn't what I got my degree in. And the only reason why I did it is because when I moved here, I was working these retail job hours, and I wouldn't get off till like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and I was having a hard time balancing getting my son and my work schedule. And then his little bad self got kicked out of daycare, and I'll never forget, his grandmother had to come, great grandmother actually came down for 2 weeks and helped me to watch him while I looked for another job. It was just crazy stuff. Imagine, like, no money, no daycare because your baby gets kicked out. You just have all this stuff going on. You done broke up with your boyfriend. All kind of stuff is just going on, right? So I mean, in shambles. Like, there was a moment in time at that point in my life where I literally got like every bit of change I could find and took it to Kroger just to deposit it in a little coin machine just to get the money, like just to give you guys, paint a picture of, you know, how hard it was at the time. And so anyways, I started substitute teaching because I was looking for something that I could get on the same schedule with my son, and I was able to put him in daycare. And so I said that to say that teaching was not even in my, it wasn't even in my eyesight. And now I've been working with the school district that I'm with ever since then, and have found out that it was my calling, it was my passion. So even through all of the adversity that I was fighting, God had to put me on that path and take me through those things. And my son had to get out of daycare and all those things just to be able to find my way into the school district so that I could find what my actual passion was and what my calling was. And so anyways, I was substitute teaching for a year. I was living in this apartment. And so in 2012, in January 2012, we had an absolute family, I don't even know what to call it. Like, we have a situation that went on with my mother that completely changed my life. I don't think I've ever cried so hard in my entire life. So I had to deal with that. It was very difficult. My brother was dealing with that. And so at the time, that was in January when that all finalized with her. And just a few months earlier than that, he had actually moved in with me. So he was a freshman in high school. So here I am. I've got this situation with my mom where she's no longer necessarily in the picture, and I'm having to take care of my son, take care of my brother, and figure things out on this substitute teacher salary of $75 a day, which, you know, that's not a lot. And so fast forward 6 months from then, and then something devastating happens to my son's father. And so don't get my words twisted. It's not that, I mean, I was struggling, but he always, you know, did what he needed to do for our son, but that didn't necessarily have anything to do with me and my struggles. And so he's always been there for his son, and he's an awesome, awesome dad. And so anyways, 6 months later, a very similar situation that happened to my mom also happened to him. So here I am left to fend for my brother and my son completely alone at this point. And so I don't know, it was just hard. You know, you just can't, I can't even say that you can't imagine, because I can almost guarantee that every single person watching this has been through a situation where it just seems like one thing after another, after another, after another, after another, after another keeps getting piled on top of each other. And you're just like, I don't even know how I can withstand this. I just don't even know. And so I was 26 at the time, trying to figure out how to take care of and raise a teenager, all while my son is, you know, still young and bouncing off the walls and acting crazy, and I'm trying to do it all on my own. And so I never forget when my brother did move down here, I was looking for, I had just interviewed for this job, and I picked him up from the airport, and I went to the school that I had just applied at, because I was trying to get a full-time teaching job. I mean, I had the certification and the credentials, I just hadn't secured a teaching position. And so I picked him up from the airport, and we drove to the school that I was applying at. It was nighttime at the time, and I literally just got out the car, and I got on my hands and knees in front of the school, and I prayed, and I prayed, and I prayed, and the Lord gave me my first teaching job. They called me back and gave me the job. And so just a few months later, we were able to, because my son and brother were sharing a room at the time, which was kind of awkward for this, you know, high school teenager to be sharing this room with this, you know, I think my son was probably 4 at the time. And so we were able to move out of there and move into my townhouse, which I loved. And even that was crazy, because remember, I had the eviction that was on my credit. And so the lady who owned the townhouse that I lived in, you know, she personally owned it, so I wasn't going through like a company or anything. And so I just called on the phone. I broke down my circumstance to her, told her everything. I told her that I would give her a double deposit if she would, you know, let me stay there. I got references for her, and even though I didn't deserve to be in there because I had this eviction on my credit, and, you know, she could have told me no without batting an eye, for whatever reason, let me back it up, because we drove over there one night after church, I think after a Bible study, and when I pulled into the driveway, my brother said, I guess you're about to go pray. Yep, I sure am. And I went out there and I got on my hands and knees and I prayed over that townhouse. And lo and behold, Miss Terry and she and I still keep in contact to this day. And mind you, I've been owning my house now at this point for 3.5 years. And so we still keep in contact because we built a relationship. And so she told me I can move in there. We did it. I think we started with maybe 6 months. And never once was I late on my rent. That was just a turning point in my life where things started to finally pick up. And so I lived there for 2 years and then went and applied for my house after that, and I wasn't even fit or qualified for my house. I went through a special program that was a first-time homeowners program for people who didn't have the best credit, and again didn't even deserve to have this house. And that's when, in the process of me buying this house, I actually joined the church that I currently attend, that I talk about all the time. And they have a special spot on their card when you first join for prayer requests, and I put this address on that card. And the house actually had went off the market, and I was devastated because when I walked into this house, I just knew it was my house. I was like, no, that's mine. I haven't seen not one like it, and that's my house. And so when they told me that the house was off the market, I was devastated, but I put it on that prayer request card. And a week or two later, my realtor calls and tells me that the contract fell through and that we could move forward with getting the house. And here I am 3.5 years later in my house that I paid the mortgage on time every month. And so when I read this and it said that the best feeling in the whole world is watching things finally fall into place after watching them fall apart for so long, it just really touched me, because I know I tell you guys all the time, you know, I talk to you guys about me being on a very strict budget. There were moments in my life where I had to tell my friends, no, I can't go, I can't do. There were times where, you know, me, my brother, and my son, we were on like a strict schedule of what we would eat. During football season, we would go to Papa John's on Mondays because they had $6 large pizzas, and I would get 2 slices, my son would get 2 slices, and my brother could have 3 slices, and there'd be 1 slice left over for my son when he got home from school the next day. Like, we had it down to a science. On Tuesdays, we had the $2-piece at Popeyes that were 99 cents, and each one of us would get a 2-piece, and I would come home and make sides. Like, we had it down literally to a science on how we were going to survive. So, you know, it's hard for me to see people who say they're struggling, but they out popping bottles. It's hard for me to see people say that they struggling, but they stay in the mall. Like, you know, I'll tell y'all in a quick second that I still to this day will shop at the Goodwill. I don't live above my means, but I can just tell you that I'm so thankful and so grateful for every single thing that I have. I'm so thankful and so grateful for the place that God has brought me from, and I wouldn't even change it. I wouldn't change any of it, because all of those things helped to mold and make me into the person that I am. And so if you've ever heard me talk about my faith and why my faith is so strong, it's because I've seen time after time after time after time again him open doors that should have been closed. You know, just him making a way where there shouldn't have been a way. Him giving me an opportunity even though I know I don't deserve it, because I'm unclean and I'm filthy and I'm not worthy, but he continues to do it for me. So this quote really was special to me. So all I can say is that if you guys are going through anything at all, just know that it's with a purpose. And I say that all the time. And it actually brings me back to a sermon that my pastor taught, or, you know, that he preached about. And he talked about a bow and arrow, and how when you pull the bow and arrow back slowly, we could be going through a situation and it just feels like you're in it forever. It's slow, it's gradual. When are you going to come out? When are you going to come out? When are you going to come out? But when you're finally all the way back here and you're so far back that you can't go back anymore, and you're just devastated and you feel like there's nothing else you can do, by the time you release it, you're forward, you're on to your next level. And that part right there was going to be quick. And so even though you've been in the trenches for a very long time, and it took it forever, and you just feel like you're never going to come out of it, when you finally get as far back as back can go, when you feel like you can't get no lower, I promise you guys, you'll just take off. And so I continue to stay grounded in my faith, and I continue to thank God daily for everything that he's brought me and my family to and through, and just know that he can do the same for you. So I think I was long-winded today, and I didn't even know I was going to tell y'all all of that. I guess the Holy Spirit is just talking through me today. So, but anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and as usual, I would like for you to like this video, subscribe to my channel, share it with anybody that you think it will be helpful for, and as usual, I'll see you guys back here again next Monday.